Order. Naomi, we do have a quorum present. All trustees are present. Joining us at the table, we're happy to have with us our superintendent, Mr. Juan Martinez, members of the administrative cabinet, front of the room. Thank you all for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, would you please stand for the pledge to the American and the Texas flags? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the mission of the Clint Independent School District is to prepare all students to be successful citizens. The district will work in partnership with the community and the family to create opportunities for the students to maximize their personal potentials. This time, it's my pleasure to turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Mr. Martinez, who has some very special recognition tonight. Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Mr. Pendel. Members of the board, Ms. Laura Cade will assist me with the special presentations today. We have, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Aldrich is doing the special presentations. No wonder she looked at me like, no, it's not me. Mr. Aldrich.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. Our first presentation is going to be for Hunt Communities, and first I'd like to ask Ms. Christy Borden, who's our program coordinator with Base Play. And I will tell you, there's no bigger advocate for our kids in the community other than Ms. Borden. I mean, she has really beat the bushes to get money to help expand our softball and baseball program that we currently have at the elementaries. So at this time, I'm going to ask her to present the plaque and just say a few words for Hunt Communities. And if Mr. Ortero, David Ortero, if he's here, if you could please join us at the podium as well, representing Hunt Communities.
Thank you, Superintendent, trustees. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm here with El Paso Border Youth Athletic Association. We run the base play program in 3 Clint ISD schools. Currently, we're in CT Welch here in Horizon, Montana Vista Elementary in Montana Vista, and WD Surratt in Clint. I'm here with a select group of coaches and with David Otero to say thank you for the time and the investment that all of them have made in the program. We began working with Clint in the fall of 2014. We're about to start our 4th season this spring with a special summer season going on this year for the first time, and in the fall an expansion into 6th grade. Currently we are in 4th and 5th grade with a little over 200 students in the program. Just to let you know the way the program is structured, we work with the kids for 12 weeks in the fall and 12 weeks in the spring, pull them onto baseball and softball teams, monitor their grades, and assist the children in understanding academic responsibility and social connection within the schools. Over the lifetime of the program, of the kids with the most serious academic challenges, and those are the children that are failing 1 or more subjects for 2 consecutive reporting periods, we've seen a 71% improvement or transition to passing grades for that group of kids. So we feel like we're in the right place at the right time, and we're really privileged to have the support we have from the school district, first and foremost from the school board. Thank you for your help, and from the community. This fall, we had a huge milestone for our program in that through Hunt Family Foundation, we were granted a 5-year grant to work with the school district, and we've already gotten our first and second check from them, which has been beautiful. So this serves as a basis for sustainability and with our presence in the community. So we're really incredibly thankful, and we want to recognize Hunt for their investment in Clint ISD.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Our second presentation tonight is for our volunteer coaches that work within the program. These folks that give of their time, some of them are district employees, most of them are just folks within our community that want to come out and help with the program. They go through a background check, they go through a training program, a very intense training program looking at rules and coaching. And again, something else that Base Play does to, again, help support our kids and make sure that we just don't have a body out there, but we have folks that are trained, that can work with our students so that as they start moving on to the different levels, that our kids improve all the way. And one of the good things about this program is that, and again, thanks to Christy and Base Play overall, we're looking at expanding this program this coming year into the 6th grade. So we'd like to be able to move those students along. Christy's looking at trying to get this into all of our middle schools coming up, because we've got, of course, kids at East Montana Middle School. We've got Ricardo Estrada, Horizon Middle, and Clint Junior High. Again, based on the support from the dollars that they've been able to collect from the community, from folks at the Kiwanis Club, Hunt Communities, Jordan Foster, you know, just to name a few of those people that have really done a great job of supporting students within Clint ISD. So again, Ms. Borden, if you would introduce the folks that were here, and I will hand them.
Yes, this is we couldn't do what we do, and we certainly wouldn't accomplish what we have been able to accomplish without support from the communities. And one of the key positions is the coaching position. It's hard to recruit coaches, it's hard to keep coaches, and tonight we're here to recognize a group of coaches that have been with our program since the very beginning. Every season they re-up, and I can't tell you what a relief it is when I get their texts and I know they're still on board. So I would like to thank Isela Moreno, if you want to come up, Isela, from CT Welch. Isela is a baseball coach at CT Welch. Monica Rivera, who is also a baseball coach at CT Welch. Destiny Miramontes, who is a softball coach at WD Surratt. And Roger Fernandez, who is a volunteer and a coach at Montana Vista.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Got several people.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking time to recognize some people that are really critical to our success. This summer, we'll be working with Columbia University that's going to be partnering with us and assessing our program. And in the fall, we anticipate 300 students working with Base Play. So thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Our next presentation is really, it's to Clint ISD. It's to our Board of Trustees, to our Superintendent, to our Child Nutrition Department. This is the first year that the Children at Risk, which is a nonprofit organization, has ranked child nutrition departments within the state of Texas. And what they do is that they rank school districts that have 10,000 or more students, that have 60% or more economically disadvantaged. And if we could have the website up right now, just so folks could see the website, and then I'll have my PowerPoint up right after that. In their letter that they sent to us, it says, Clint ISD Nutrition Department has ranked in the top 10 for children at risk inaugural food rankings. Based on the data from the Texas Department of Agriculture, Children at Risk set out to rank those Texas nutritional departments who serve our most vulnerable populations based on a variety of indicators. Through this ranking, we help to bring recognition to those nutrition departments across the state that are going above and beyond what is required to serve their students. Because we're not only serving students during the school day. We also serve students after the school day. Through well thought out school nutritional programs, children receive nutritious meals and snacks every day, regardless of their parental income. All of you realize that within our school district, all of our students eat for free because of the number of economically disadvantaged students that we have. For these eligible students, nutritious meals are provided at either reduced cost or in many cases at no cost. More than 3 million Texas children qualify for free or reduced meals. And for many of these children, meals eaten during the school day are the only substantial meals that they will receive that day. For this reason, across the state of Texas, school meals are imperative for student success. At this time, we've got a few of our child nutrition staff members that are here. I'm going to ask those three to please come forward, and I'll ask the folks from Southwest Foods to come forward here as well. And I will introduce them here in just a minute. But as we start looking at it, there are two main categories that all school districts must have. They must have a school breakfast program, and they must have a national school lunch program. Now, if you receive federal dollars, you've got to follow their rules, and we receive 100% federal dollars. Every dime that we receive comes from the federal government flowing through the state of Texas. But our district, through our superintendent support, goes above and beyond that. When you look at a school breakfast program, we ensure that every child has the opportunity, because we do breakfast in the classroom. And you may talk to some of our teachers, some of our administrators. Breakfast in the classroom is difficult because we have an accounting portion of that we must track, that we are audited on. In fact, we were audited a month ago, back in December, on how we actually run our program. And honestly, we had an excellent rating. We had one substitute that may check one wrong box, but other than that, we had no issues with the program because our folks make sure that they go through trainings, working with our campus administrators to make sure that we provide the opportunity for our students. And the key is providing that opportunity. If we only served in the cafeteria, for those of you that have ever been around children during the day, they've got a lot of other things they would rather do than go eat. Even if they're hungry, they'd rather go out and play. But through breakfast in the classroom, all of our children have an opportunity. National School Lunch Program, which we provide. Again, all of our students have an opportunity to eat during lunch. Other than that, we also provide our CACFP program, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is our supper program. All of our children that are there for tutoring, remediation, those students are being able to, I'm getting tongue-tied. We're able to provide them with a meal after school if they choose to participate. We also have a fresh fruits and vegetable program, which is another federal program. Right now, we currently have it on 4 of our elementary campuses. We're going to expand that into the other 2 elementary campuses to make sure that we provide that snack for those students in the afternoon before they go home. And then during the summertime, we've got our Summer Seamless program. And of course, we provide it for summer school, but we also provide it in the outlying areas. We've provided food out in the Agua Dulce area, out in the Montana area, and we're always looking for ways to be able to provide meals to those students that can't make it to campus. Because if you go to school at Red Sands Elementary and you live out near the park and you don't have transportation, that free meal at that location really doesn't help you a great deal. So we're looking at expanding out into churches, which we've done over the last 3 years, and in any other area where we can get a substantial number of children to be able to come to those locations and eat. So what we're looking at right now, we've got TDA approval, is getting a bus, converting that bus so that we can go to those children, have locations set up, and then those children come to that spot to be able to provide them with a hot meal. And again, all of that's paid with the dollars that we receive through the federal government. None of it is local tax dollars. Absolutely none of it. Every penny is federal dollars. And in order for this to work, it starts out at the campus level. And when you think about our campus managers, if you've known any of those folks, they're some of the hardest working people you're going to have. Tonight we have our manager from East Montana Middle School, Ms. Gonzalez, who does an outstanding job on her campus. We'd like to present her first. And in order for us to continue running these programs, the paperwork that she does gets audited very heavily. I mean, from every meal that's served through the accounting, the dollars and cents. And then after that, we've got our two coordinators. We've got Ms. Julie Delgado and Ms. Letty Maes, taking care of it at the district level. And again, they monitor and make sure that as we get audited not only by the federal government, but also by our district auditing firm that checks us every year, we're always looked at. And these ladies do an outstanding job of making sure that in order for us to continue to serve our kids, that the paperwork is done, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted to make sure that we don't lose any funding. And of course, then we've got our folks from Southwest Foods, and tonight with us we've got Mr. Hawkes and Mr. Gonzalez, who again, they're in charge of our menus and quality control. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
And right now, I can tell you the only problem our district has with child nutrition is that we're not spending our money fast enough. That's something that we're going to be presenting to you next month. Just want Ms. Delgado wanted to remind me that when we do our supper program, it is open to the community. Parents can come and eat with their children, and if you go to Montana Vista Elementary, I think, which is probably where I'd say we get the most parental support there. Those folks can come in, they eat for $1.50. $5 for supper? Okay, $5, not $1.50. So you have to have a little more money. But again, when you get a complete meal for $5, it's still better than going to McDonald's. I can promise you that right now. But I do want to share with you also, too, the criteria that was used there. And I mentioned these programs. These are the programs that we currently offer within our school district. And I can tell you that I've been in contact with the folks from Children at Risk. We're going to start working with them to find out, are there any other ways that we can possibly go out and serve our students? And one I did fail to, and I didn't put it on here because it's part of the other programs, for our students that come in on weekends for Saturdays for tutoring, our Saturday school, we can provide breakfast, lunch, and a snack. And Ms. Delgado's working with the campuses to make sure that whatever they're asking us to provide, we're providing that for them. These are the top 10 school districts in the state of Texas with their final ranking. And you can see we're in pretty good company from Dallas ISD, there in North Texas. You've got Del Valle in the Austin area, along with all the schools as you can see there from the Rio Grande Valley. We're the only school district from West Texas. So I think our folks have done an outstanding job. But again, none of this would be possible if our Board of Trustees did not approve us doing those. The only two we're required to do, breakfast and lunch. But I know we presented to our board for the supper program, and we've presented the others, and we've had nothing but support on those programs for at least the last 10 years. So again, thank you very much as well, and we appreciate everything that our board does for us and our child nutrition department.
Mr. Aldridge, I'd also like to add that the meals for the board have never been better, too, than they are now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you and your team for your continued success with the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great job. Congratulations, everyone, once again. Let's give them a hand. Okay, it's now that time of our meeting that we set aside for public forum. During public forum, citizens are offered an opportunity to address the board without prior approval. However, the subject matter may not be on the agenda. The board cannot engage in discussion, and no board action will be taken. Presentations shall be informative only. You should not mention the students' names unless you're mentioning your own child, nor shall you negatively reference district employees. The board requests that presentations not include statements that may be considered defamatory. If your presentation includes a complaint or a negative comment and you name a district employee, or even if you mention a student by name, I will find you out of order and will terminate the presentation. You are advised to follow proper channels set out in district policy to seek administrative resolution before bringing this matter to the board. Presentations shall not exceed 3 minutes, and persons may not relinquish time to another speaker. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Slate to the podium. Slate, I'm sorry. Yeah, Slate, sorry. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm here as the representative of the teachers in this district that are part of ATPE, which is the Association of Texas Professional Educators. I am a teacher at Surratt Elementary. I'm the Region 19 president, and I'm also the vice president for the Clint local. We have over 300 plus members, and they have asked me, my campus representatives and the numerous members that have called have asked me to come and address the school board. As part of my duties as the Clint vice president, it's to be the liaison to the school board. So the reason why I'm here is that they have asked me to come. They're asking that we do a teacher climate survey, a lot like the survey that we did with the students. We want the teachers to be able to express how they're feeling about the climate in the district. Let's see, we have numerous teachers that have expressed that they're being asked to do excessive redundant tasks that have nothing to do with the students' learning. It is hoped that something can be done to reduce this unnecessary work. Overall, teachers are feeling stressed and have expressed to us, this has been expressed to us by our campus representatives. So we're hoping that the school board will, see if there's something that they can do about this. Climate survey of some kind so that the teachers' feelings can also, so that you can know how the teachers are feeling, so that you can know that the teachers are feeling that they're being asked to do many, many things that have nothing to do with student learning, that they're being asked to do excessive tasks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll pass your concerns on to our superintendent, and he'll be in touch with you later then. Thank you. Are there any others, Naomi, at this time? Okay. If there are no others, that concludes our public forum for tonight. This time, it's my pleasure to turn the meeting over to our superintendent, Mr. Martinez, for the superintendent's report. Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. Just very quickly, just to announce that the district will be closed March 7th through the 11th for spring break holidays, so just keep that in mind. The district will be closed. And just very quickly, I also want to thank you for your support in keeping the school district open. Yesterday, we had approximately 71% attendance, 70.4 attendance, and we had pretty much a regular day yesterday. So we are very happy that we were able to serve close to 9,000 students, who were present for our school. So again, we had an uneventful day, and we have very many positive comments from our community. So thank you again for that. And that's all I have for my report this evening. Thank you, sir. If looking at the attendance for the school year, the average, including already yesterday's, our attendance is still at 96.13%, which is very high. So we will be requesting the waiver, but in the event that it will not approved, then we are still, our attendance is still very high. However, we do not anticipate any problems with our waiver request for yesterday. In fact, I've been offered the assistance of our region director, Dr. Aguirre, who has contacted the commissioner regarding our waiver for that particular day. So I don't anticipate any problems.
Mr. Martinez, is that about 3,000 students that didn't come to school yesterday, or?
Exactly was 3,413. It's pretty much what we anticipated, about 1/3. Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez, for that report. No question?
Yeah.
Impact on the teachers. We had a 398 employees absent. 398. This is total employees absent. However, we were able to cover every single class with district employees from the other school districts. We had schools like Horizon High School with only 1 or 2 absences, so there was no major impact there. We had other elementaries with much higher than that. Yes, sir. We actually informed the principals that to encourage that on their employees, if they wish to bring their children, the district was available for them. In fact, some of them did.
Are there any other questions?
Just a real quick question. Were most of the absences in the elementary or the secondary, or across the board?
No, actually, the
On the children?
the reverse was true for adults and children. We had more employee attendance at the secondary level, but we had less student attendance at the secondary level. We had schools like Desert Hills with 88% attendance, which was the highest. And then we had a Clint High School with about 47% attendance. So it was a reverse, employees and students. But our little ones were here. Mainly the elementaries were almost a regular day.
Any other questions? Thank you once again, Mr. Martinez. Let's move on to the administrative reports section of the agenda. Are there any questions on any of the administrative reports presented in your board book?
I do have a question. The same question I had last month. On page 13, Clint Junior High did not report the prohibited weapon, and it was on the taper report, but it's still not showing on this report.
On page
13, Clint Junior High, level 4,
the prohibited
but it was
weapon.
on the taper report that Mr. Littlejohn had. That was a prior year? Oh, okay. But it's not on here.
The
incident.
the incident that happened,
January 12th.
was that reported on last month, Ms. Perez?
Or is it the bottom row? Engaging in deadly contact?
On page 14?
Is it page 14, I think?
No,
14?
page 13.
But the next page?
It's on the next page,
Next
Ms.
page.
James.
Oh,
However,
okay.
what we received from the campus was that the charge was changed by law enforcement. It was not considered a prohibited weapon after they assessed the type of weapon that the child had, so they changed it to deadly conduct.
And I was going to ask what that was.
Yes, that's the
Deadly-
same incident.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
was
It-
there a weapon on campus?
There was a weapon, however, it was not something that could be used because it was an antique of some sort, and it was capped, and so it could not be used. However, he used it, the way he used it was he was portraying it to be a true gun that could be used and fired. And so after the law enforcement checked out the gun at the home of the student, then they realized it's not a prohibited weapon because it couldn't be fired, but he used it as a deadly weapon when he was displaying it.
Oh, okay.
So the
Yeah, we didn't
charge
have-
was changed by law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have that information, so I didn't know.
And that came after the fact.
Okay.
So
All right.
initially, it was a prohibited weapon. That's what they initially charged it with. But when they went to review the weapon, then it was found to be not a prohibited weapon.
Okay. I'm glad I asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pettis. Are there,
Ms. Perez, maybe on On Mountain View, on page 24, what was that? I'm sorry, that was on the taper report, but that was 2 years ago, you said. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the administrative reports? Okay, let's go on to the consent agenda in this case. Would any board member like to discuss any item on the consent agenda at this time? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The consent agenda is approved. Our first action item tonight is action 7A, approval to amend the 2015-2016 budget. Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. Mrs. Klein will present this item. Ms. Klein, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Good evening, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. Every year or so, we like to present an amendment to the board that will enhance projects or help us complete projects that we have been looking at, working on, and to see how we can fit into our annual budget. When we prepare our annual budget, it's difficult to include many items that possibly can wait, that aren't necessary at this time, because we're presenting a budget to you based on projected enrollment. We're projecting state funding. We're projecting attendance. So we feel safe with the numbers that we're giving you, but they're very conservative because we want to ensure that we have a good balanced budget. At the end of the year, we have sometimes what might be called fund balance. So it's the excess revenues over expenditures, which is not unusual for any school district. I wish it was unusual for me personally, but normally you're going to have more revenue than you will expenditures because, once again, we're projecting. The administration's been working on a very lengthy list, but this list includes different areas that we would like to look at. We did finish our fiscal year with a positive fund balance, almost a little over $5 million to fund balance, and the projects that we've listed exceed that amount, but may not all be completed next year. So I believe that the amount we will expend this year will be far less than the amount that we actually placed into fund balance. The list includes 27 items, and the very first item I would like to explain and correct, my apologies. When we approved the budget and when we approved the bond, we approved a $5.5 million increase to that bond budget, and I only listed $5 million, so my apologies there. That number, the difference, the $500,000, does not change the end result because we only expect to spend approximately $1 million of that $5 million this year. We're in the schematic phases, we're drawing, so the $5.5 million that you have approved for us to assist the bond construction may be about $1 million this year. So the end result will not be the total. Every year we will track this dollar amount and bring it back to you, let you know how much of the originally approved amount that we have expended and how much we need to reapprove. That's something that is required. Construction budgets are not required to bring back to you on an annual basis, but anything from our general fund is. So every year you will have a report on where we stand and how much money was actually expended. This list contains items that we feel will improve life for our students, for our staff, for our community, and will bring efficiencies to the district. A lot of the list is items such as push carts for teachers for the Horizon High School reconfiguration. They're not necessary, but they would absolutely help the reconfiguration, and we'd like to get started early this year so we have everything in place for that reconfiguration. When we went through the list, we looked at what would help us. Placing laptops in students' hands, in iPads in our younger grades in our pre-K program. Our library books for reconfiguration, we don't have to purchase those. We could split them up between the libraries, but it really would be more efficient and more beneficial for our students to leave the books where they are and buy some additional books. So that's a very brief explanation. I don't know if there's any items that you have any questions about on the list. The final page that I provided you was a recap and a projection if every single penny was spent, which we know will not be. We know that we will not spend the $5.5 million that was dedicated to bonds, to the bond construction. The majority of the amounts on the remainder of the list will probably be expended, but there is some additional construction items that may not happen or be completed by the end of August. So the entire amount provided will probably not be expended, but I wanted to provide the recap of what our fund balance may look like if the total amount was expended. So this is the worst case scenario, is basically what I would like to give you. And it's not a worst case, but the total amount of money that if it was spent, what would we look like at the end of the year for our fund balance? What it would look like is if we expended every penny, we would have almost 3 months worth of fund balance remaining. That's what TA likes to see, is 3 months. And that's if we spent just under $10 million. We know that we're not going to expend that amount. So we should be very well around the 3-month average that they would like to see in our fund balance. But keep in mind, it's our fund balance, and that's a recommendation. We can have 0 fund balance, we can have 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but what is recommended is 3 months, and that is good fiscal responsibility for our staff members to pay anything that I've been doing this for a long time, and 2 times in my tenure, state funding stopped. And we were very lucky as a school district. The first time it happened, we had to borrow money from the bank to make payroll. We did not have fund balance. So fund balance is very important, that we can move on, and we never like to see state funding stopped, but I've seen it twice, and I hope I never see it again. Yes, the second, I guess, area on the sheet below the table, the very first area explains my calculations to say we would have just under 3 months, 2.83 months worth of fund balance if we expended the fund balance or the amounts in their entirety. The second is another scenario. There's certain times, and it depends at TEA who is looking at our financial statements, they will only base your fund balance on the unreserved and undesignated amounts. If they did that, then we would only have just over 2 months fund balance. But once again, that's if we expended the entire just under $10 million. I did want to show you that the state and GASB, which is our governmental or government accounting standards boards, requires us to keep our fund balance in different areas. So you see inventories, non-spendable. There's $80,000 there. I did not include it in my calculation because we cannot spend it. It would be paper that may be stored, cleaning supplies, things like that. That's why it's a small amount. And more than likely, that is our CMP programs, foods that are stored as of August 31st and not used. The designated and committed for construction, the district and you as trustees had allowed me to designate $10 million for future construction. Designated and committed means that there isn't a plan for it. We just feel like we need to commit $10 million because we could have future plans. It is not for a specific project at all. And we like to make commitments to our fund balance because we do not want TEA to think that we have an excessive fund balance without a plan for the future. Any school district knows that they may have construction if we had growth, so it's a reasonable amount to commit. We had designated and committed for equipment. Once again, it means the same thing. We feel that we may need this if we had a large growth in student population. We may have to come up with funds to buy additional computers for classrooms, furniture, things like that. So we're going to move a piece of the committed or designated and committed down to assigned, because if you approve this evening, now we will assign those amounts to the list. So that means I can't go and say I'm going to move it over here, put it over there. It is as per the list. I hope that that gives you a general idea. I believe that, and I feel very confident that the amounts are well within amounts that we can expend and maintain our fund balance at recommendations and a reasonable amount for the school district.
Any questions for Ms. Glenn?
I kind of want to know how everybody came up with this list.
Mhm.
What sort of process goes through to determine what to put on the list?
The process happens within the different departments and then brought to our cabinet and discussed at those levels. The items that, for instance, number 6, which would be the carts for the reconfiguration, these are discussions we've had in cabinet. What can we do to make the reconfiguration, the change of the student grade levels better? How can we make it easier for teachers, easier for staff? So that's where we brought in the push carts, the additional laptops for those teachers, the library books, things like that. Conversations happen largely, and if you'd like to come up and share, Mr. Aldridge, for the construction areas, and I'll let him share that.
Yes, ma'am. As we looked at the, well, starting at the top there with the tracks, looking and
The high dollar item.
yes, ma'am. I mean, those we're just trying to get equity across the district, and some of the others, when you're looking at, well, I'd go down to number 25 if you look at Horizon High School. Horizon High School, for the size of that campus, they do not have any security vehicles for their security officers to go from front to back, for instance. Where at Clint High School, right now, we have 3. Horizon has none. So we wanted to try and make sure that they had what they needed there to help, again, provide security through the campus. When we compared that to Mountain View is very easy to get around in because it's a much smaller space, so we didn't have any recommendations there. As we looked at the storage units there at Horizon High School, when we start eliminating some of the portables, storage will be at a premium on that campus. Principal will probably tell you it's at a premium now. So we wanted to make sure that we started out with with at least 2 storage units. We may come back later and ask for more units so that we can store items. We did that at Ricardo Estrada. We've done it at Horizon Middle School. Because a lot of those campuses, when they were built, there's very little or no storage that was there. If you were to look at our custodial items, we've had 2 meetings this year with our custodians, going through, asking them about the things that they need. We've started reviewing with them their inventories. We've talked about some of the equipment and different things that they need. So we came up with a dollar amount that we thought could help meet some of the needs that they've got right now. Yes, sir. The custodians are going to be item number 21. As you can see there, we've got $6,000 per campus allocated, where we will work with them, where we'll have them come look at their current inventory of items. We're talking equipment is what we're talking about here. Looking at the equipment they've got and then things that we can get to help sustain them and get some equity among the campuses. Obviously, we can't buy a lot of high dollar items because some of the buff.
That's what is needed.
Yes, sir. And when we start looking at those items, we're looking at, most of those are $8,000 to $10,000. So we're looking at trying to get campuses to purchase those together so that they can share, because in most cases they're not used every day. I mean, some of our folks will tell us, and then when we start looking at how they're actually used, they're not used every day.
Furnitures are not used every day.
Well, not necessarily burnishers, and I think every campus does have burnishers.
Every campus.
Yes, sir. Every campus. Yes, sir.
What is that?
It's basically it's a head that rotates that helps to polish the floor. Basically a polisher. Burnisher is what it's called, but it basically polishes the floor. All the campuses that need one do have at least one. Most of our campuses, when we've talked to them, would like to have an additional. Now those, they can purchase one of those out of their $6,000. Those aren't $6,000. We've got some other equipment that really is above that as well.
Do you have the automatic furnitures, or what's that are vacuum and furnitures?
No, sir. I don't believe we have any combination burnishers. To my knowledge, we may, but I know most of our campuses have the ones with the polishing wheel. Of course, where you change if we're talking the same thing, where you change the different pads in order to polish the floor. Those campuses that need it, for instance, Clint High School doesn't have any because they do not need them on that campus. But when you look at our campuses that have vinyl tile VCT, those campuses do have at least one.
And all the campuses have the needed vacuum cleaners that they need?
They have vacuum cleaners. We have some campuses that do not like backpack vacuum cleaners. They can purchase those.
I wouldn't wear one of those.
Now, that's honestly, it's what's recommended by OSHA, and that's one.
Backpacks?
Yes, sir. When we made the change to those 3 years ago, we actually brought the custodians in so that they could look at those, see how they worked, and then we purchased those at that point. Since then, we've had some that do not like them. We've got some campuses that do. So they're going to have the opportunity to replace those if they choose to do so. And some of our campuses will do just that. Yes, sir.
I hear you, but in the sense that campuses will pay for those liabilities. The weight and the liability as far as the district is concerned.
Is honestly is less. Yes, sir. When we've met with our folks in benefits and we brought them in and looked at them, our insurance carriers and I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you meeting with them?
When we initially brought these out, we messed up.
To the head custodians?
Yes, sir, head custodians.
You haven't talked to the people that actually work.
We have since then. I will tell you that. Yes, sir, we have, and we've got some folks that don't like them. That's why we're giving them. They have the opportunity. If the head custodian working with their folks chooses to get rid of those, they will do so. And
I would strongly recommend that the head custodians try it for a couple of days and see if they keep wanting that type of equipment, whether OSHA approves them or not.
yes, sir.
Okay,
Other-
the second part of my question is vacuum cleaners. Do all the campuses have the necessary vacuum cleaners or culprits that they need throughout the campuses?
I believe so. Yes.
How-
Based on their inventories and their number of employees, we believe so. But again, they have the opportunity. They have the opportunity to change those or add more vacuum cleaners based on the dollars that we're giving them.
Based on the dollars, but we have the dollars. The statement is consistently being made that the district does not have money. We have money.
Yes, sir. And I will tell
I
you,
don't know who's telling them that there is no money.
and we addressed that honestly. I think 2 weeks ago when
Yeah,
we met with the head.
Mr. Lara, we had a meeting with the head custodians, and we basically asked them to tell us what was it that they needed. We were going through this process, and our custodians, the head custodians, indicated to us that the reality is that most people don't like the backpack vacuum cleaner. However, with these funds, they will be able to replace those backpacks if they choose to do so. Some individuals like them, some don't. But again, these funds will allow them to replace those and not use them if they wish not to. You also have to remember that in some cases they have to vacuum certain areas that the one that you pull back and forth is not going to be appropriate. You can't lift it up and vacuum some places where you can't reach. Then they can use the other one. But again, these funds will give them the ability to buy what they need and replace those if they wish to do so. When we met with them, no one expressed that they did not have sufficient vacuum. I am serious. I'm telling you in public, we are being recorded. We met with the head custodians and we asked them, we met for about 2 hours.
About 2 hours.
About 2 hours to ask them what were their needs. Their issue was not even the equipment in general. The issue was now the timeliness of how we deliver their products. That was their main concern. That we addressed the issue of the quality of the equipment. I mean, of the quality of the products. They are okay with that. The main issue for them was the how fast we are delivering those services to them, and we have addressed that already, right, Mr. Aldrich? But the issue of not enough equipment was not brought up by them. They did bring up the issue of the vacuum cleaner. And that's when we said, well, we'll give you the funds to replace or buy the ones that you need. They did bring up another issue. They wanted to have, in one case, they said, we want an equipment replaced, and I don't even know what it was. We asked them the reason why, because it was an expensive item. And the only answer was because it's old. But it works perfectly. The fact that it is old doesn't mean replace it. It works perfectly. That was the only case where someone said, we would like to have a new one, but the old one works perfectly. And I think it was one of those where you buff the floors. I think that was the one.
Yes.
You know, we met with our head custodians, and we hear what they had to say, but not one of them expressed we don't have enough equipment on the vacuum cleaner side. We addressed that issue. They did ask for the heavy equipment to have it at every school, but based on the funds that we have, we decided, well, maybe it's best to buy the heavy equipment and have it available at the district, maybe 2 or 3 of those in the district, and they can then request it, because it's not being used every single day. It may be used once, twice a year, perhaps,
Depending on the campus.
depending on the campus.
So for instance, when you look at a campus like Red Sands Elementary, just because of the sand itself, they have to actually touch their floors more so than some of our other campuses, just because of the wear. So they may do more stripping and some of those types of things.
So we don't think that buying equipment for every school is the most efficient way, since it is not being used every single day. And that is, we're talking about the very heavy equipment that it costs. What's the cost of a normal?
Well, some of the things, and again, I apologize, I don't have the list that we covered there, but the equipment ranged anywhere from $8,000 to $16,000 per. And what we try and do at the district level is that we purchase 1 to 2 of those things every year to put in our stock so that they can request. One, for instance, is a shampooer, so that they can shampoo carpet on a campus. It really is not cost effective to put a shampooer on every single campus at a $13,000 cost when you only use it 3 to 4 times a year. And we can rotate that from one campus to another.
There was one campus, and that was Montana Vista Elementary, who did ask for an additional vacuum cleaner. That I do remember very clearly. That was Jaime from Montana Vista Elementary.
How many vacuum cleaners are at a campus?
What?
Without the inventory.
The hand pushing back and forth.
The hand pushing, some of them may not have any hand pushing. They may only have backpack vacuum cleaners. So if we're talking vacuum cleaners in general, there's at least 3 to 4 vacuum cleaners, whether it's backpack or a push, on every single campus. And you got to remember, really, only within our offices do we have full carpeted. Within the elementaries, they've got rugs. Probably the campus with the most carpet right now is going to be Horizon High School. When you look at that, because they have 2 wings that when they were put in, they were all carpet within the classrooms. But again, most of our campuses right now, other than libraries and office area, don't really have a lot of carpet.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Question?
If hypothetically and in reality, if we've got 4 custodians working the night shift that need to vacuum their areas,
Mhm.
and we have 2 or 3 vacuum cleaners,
I'd say in most cases we have 4.
we would have a vacuum cleaner for each one of those custodians?
I believe so, but Mr. Lott, I don't want to give you any incorrect information without double checking the inventory, but I know that when we start looking at our campuses, 4 is probably going to be the minimum of what we have on most of these campuses.
Every campus?
Mr. Lara, I think if we're using the hypothetical, we won't be able to give you the answer, but I can give you the answer this way. We will have our next meeting with the head custodians coming up, and we will ask them for an inventory of their vacuum cleaners. If they need additional cleaners, we will find the funds to make sure they have it.
Okay. But ask them the question,
Mhm.
how many custodians do you have in the night shift? And then how many vacuum cleaners do you have?
Again, we will.
That makes more sense than how many vacuum cleaners you have. 3, yeah, but you've got 5 custodians. Who's not gonna vacuum?
What I'm gonna insist, and I have encouraged our head custodians time and time again, the reason for our meetings, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm the very first superintendent that meets with the custodians at this level to ask them directly to please tell us what they need. And when they come to our meetings, they've been very frank and very honest. We heard them very loud and clear when they told us about the quality of the products. We solved that issue, the quality of the products. I take the time to ask them when I go to the schools, and they are happy with the quality of the products. We addressed the issue of the delay that we were having, so we are addressing that. So what now we need to ask him directly is, please, when you come to these meetings, tell us exactly. So we're going to ask those questions regarding the inventory that they have and what they need. And I can guarantee you that if that is the case and they need it, we will find the funds to make sure that they have what they need.
Mr. Martinez, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. I have a question of a big item, which is almost $1 million. And that's 4 and 5.
Yes, sir. That's on 4 and 5. We're looking at adding a track at Horizon Middle School. And number 5 is at East Montana Middle School. That one is and actually we've got an average probably of those two. East Montana is going to be more expensive than Horizon Middle School simply because you cannot put a track around that field at that location. We're going to actually have to move their football field to the backside of the campus, because if you're familiar with where that field sits right now, there's a road on the east side of it, and the building is on the west side of it. There's not even close to being enough space to put a track around it. So in order to get that track, to get them a track, we'll have to put that on the south side of the campus, over near the band hall in that area. So as you go up Ascension, it'll be the very first portion of the campus on the backside.
So that football field is going to be grass?
Yes, sir. Unless you give us some more money, we can go with turf.
No, that's exactly why I was asking, because we had already told you that we don't want junior middle schools with artificial turf.
Yes, sir. No, there is no turf.
That was the reason, and it seemed kind of high to be almost.
Yes, sir. Again, it is an estimate. We did ask our architect, and we asked Minhada Samora to give us an estimate on what they believe the cost would be for all fees associated with it, and that's how we came up with those numbers. Again, okay, those numbers are definitely estimates on what these items would cost.
Number 25, you said that Clint High School has 3 of these things, right?
Yes, sir.
They don't have any tires, though, so they don't move them. Go check the tires.
Okay. They have not requested any tires through us, but I will check on that first thing tomorrow.
Are there any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amendments to the 2015-2016 budget as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Thank you, Ms. Klein. Our next item is approval of the 2014-15 Texas Academic Performance, TAPR, and Annual District Campus Performance Objectives. Mr. Martinez?
Thank you, Mr. Pendel. Members of the board, again, Mr. Jim Littlejohn will present this item. Mr. Littlejohn, please come to the podium.
Mr. Martinez, Mr. Pendel, members of the board, earlier at the public hearing, we went over the taper for the 2014-2015 school year, and the administration does recommend that the report be approved by the board as presented.
Any questions, discussion? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the Texas Academic Performance Report for Clint ISD, as well as the district campus performance objectives as presented. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Littlejohn.
Thank you, Mr. Pendel.
Next item is approval of the dual credit partnership between Clint ISD and El Paso Community College.
Thank you, Mr. Pendel. Members of the board, again, Mr. Littlejohn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. The 84th Legislature and House Bill 5 made some changes to the dual credit program in the state of Texas. Prior to those changes, only a junior or a senior could take a dual credit class, and then they could only take 2 a semester. That law actually changed now, and any student in a high school setting can take a dual credit class if they meet the criteria. And so that criteria is, of course, that they have to pass the TSI, the Texas Success Initiative, which is the college readiness exam, or meet the other criteria established by El Paso Community College or UTEP. Our old agreement with El Paso Community College only listed those juniors and seniors, and so in order to start moving forward with allowing our freshmen and sophomore students who are appropriate to take dual credit classes, we need to update that agreement with El Paso Community College. We're not quite ready to have those kids start yet. We're working towards a plan to get our freshmen and our sophomores. This is, of course, outside of our early college. Their early college designation allows them to have any student take dual credit classes. This is for our comprehensive high schools so that we can start moving forward with allowing them to take dual credit classes at all grade levels. And this is also in partnership with our Masters for the Future program that we're sending students district employees back to UTEP to get their masters to offer more dual credit classes. And we actually are starting a second cohort. We have 8 more teachers starting this summer. So that's up to 12. So the partnership is outlined there by El Paso Community College. And if you have any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer them. And if not, we do recommend approval.
Mr. Littlejohn, it says
Yes,
it
ma'am.
started with this current school year?
Yes, ma'am. The existing one is still in effect until the new one is signed. And the changes to it are minimal with the exception of that freshman, sophomore cohort, which we don't have any students taking it
But
yet anyways.
this actually started in August 2015?
It'll take effective the date that the board approves it. We had a pre-existing MOU that was still in effect till this one would take over.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Was there a reason why we didn't get it in August?
We didn't like the terms that EPC set out, so we negotiated with them.
Oh.
We were the only school district that negotiated with EPCC, and we had them change a few things.
Okay.
So we dialogued for about 3 months back and forth with EPCC on it before we finally got them to agree to what we wanted on a couple things. And they were minor, but still, they were things that we wanted.
Right.
I had a quick question in regards to the dual credit. I guess my understanding is, you know, these kids are taking these courses online. Do we have any type of support for those students that maybe don't have access, like let's say a laptop?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're taking the dual, are they issued a laptop or can
It
they
varies
sign
by
one out?
it varies by campus. We do make the labs available for them, and if they take the online credit dual credit classes with us, they're in a class in a lab with a facilitator. We'd have checkpoints throughout the school year. We open the labs after school, before school. Some of the campuses do check out the laptops to the students. The early college checks them out to all of the students because we have so many more kids online there. But it varies by campus.
Okay. I guess my concern was just that all the kids have the opportunity to have those laptops or have the resources,
Yes, ma'am.
so they're not discouraged from taking these type of classes.
Correct. And part of the one-on-one initiative that you just approved in the previous agenda item will have our 9th graders starting with their laptops, and we'll be moving up grade levels, as well as some of the CALs and the reconfiguration for Horizon High School will allow more kids to have those computers checked out as well. So we're planning ahead to get there. So it coincides nicely with the one-on-one initiative for the laptops that we're going to start adding up each grade level.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the dual credit partnership agreement as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pendo.
Our next item is approval of amendment to the 2015-2016 academic school calendar to allow an early release for Mountain View High School on March 24th, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Pendel. Members of the board, again, Mr. Littlejohn will present this item.
Mr. Martinez, Mr. Pindell, the members of the board, I'm working with Mr. Aldridge and the athletic department on the UIL events. We have a short window that we can host the academic tournament for the district this year, and that window has a lot of holidays and athletic events in it that we really can't find a good day on a weekend or a day that's suitable to try and get all of our secondary academics to Mountain View. Mountain View's hosting this year, and when we have the tournament, we've got all these kids coming in, and you've got to have the rooms for the events. And so what neighboring districts have done in years past is we've asked to have the students dismissed so that we can use all the classrooms and the teachers to be the judges for the district UIL academic tournament. Mr. Aldridge and I have looked carefully at the calendar, and what we're proposing is that Thursday, March 24th, before Good Friday, that we allow an early release only for Mountain View to enable us to host the district-wide secondary UIL academic tournament there at Mountain View High School that afternoon. The students would leave half-day, and then from there the tournament would be conducted in the afternoon, and we could host all the students, have the appropriate judges, and not try to get all the kids at a field trip or off campus as we've done in years past. The minutes, the 84th legislature, of course, passed the new law that there's now 75,600 minutes, which are a requirement. I've checked the minutes very carefully. If we do the early release, even with the early release, Mountain View will have 78,628 minutes. So we will be fully compliant with the new law, and that includes the we'll be able to count the minutes from yesterday because we were in attendance in school. So we're perfectly fine with the minutes to allow that Mountain View could have an early release that day. So we are recommending that Mountain View only has an early release on that day so we can host the tournament.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the, amend the 2015-16 academic school calendar as presented for Mountain View High School. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it, the motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Littlejohn.
Thank
Okay, this time, the time is 7:06. The Clint Board of Trustees, and pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551071, consultation with Board Attorney, Section 551074, personnel matters, Section 551082, school children and school district employees disciplinary matters or complaints, Section 551081, school board personally identifiable information about public school students, closed meetings. The Clint Board will convene in closed session. Possible items that will be discussed, discussion and possible action regarding the appointment and assistant superintendent of elementary instruction. B, discussion and possible action on litigation intervening regarding applications of El Paso Electric Company to change rates pending before the State Office of the Administrative Hearings, SOAH, docket 473-15-5257, PUC, docket number 44941. Number C, discussion and possible action regarding consultation with legal counsel regarding a grievance dated January 4th, 2016, January 19th, 2016, and February 5th, 2016 on discrimination complaint filed by Esther McCarthy against Superintendent of Schools and matters thereto. As always, no action will be taken in closed session. We'll be back as soon as possible. Thank you all for being here tonight. Okay, we're back in open session at 7:59. The item before the board is the discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Instruction. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Pendel, members of the board. I did recommend Ms. Sylvia Garza as the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Instruction.
Is there a motion?
So moved. There's discussion. Are you gonna have discussion?
Well, we have a
I'm
discussion
sorry,
after we
go
do
ahead.
motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Me personally, due to the fact that there is a litigation in process for that position of Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Instruction, I would like to ask if we can wait on the recommendation for, until the litigation is heard.
It's a grievance.
Before,
The
before,
grievance, right.
I'm sorry, the grievance. Yes, the grievances. Until those are heard before we make a recommendation for that position.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have a concern that we have not fulfilled our responsibilities as far as due process in the grievance process that is currently pending. I feel that we're jumping the gun and assigning an individual or accepting a recommendation to a position that has not been determined at this point. Through
So basically,
due process.
Mr. Martinez, the question is whether or not it could wait. I think that's the question for the next month.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to discuss it in public. I mean, I guess anything can wait if I am directed to do so.
No, I mean,
However,
it's up to you whether this is gonna.
however, I think I have the obligation and authority to continue with moving the school forward rather than waiting for something to be resolved. That can be resolved next month, the following month, next year, 2 years. How long is it going to take for it to be resolved? And is it necessary to wait every time that there's a grievance filed for us to continue moving the school forward? I do have the responsibility to our schools and to our district and our community to ensure that we provide the best education for our students, and I do need to have someone on board to help me with that task. I'm currently much involved with the elementary instruction, but I do need an expert in that area, and I think I am recommending that very same person. For that reason, I made my recommendation, and unless I am directed not to, I will continue with my recommendation unless the board decide otherwise.
Fair enough.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, we do have a motion and we do have a second. All those in favor of accepting Mr. Martinez's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
No?
For clarification of votes, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. Opposed, raise your right hand. And 2 opposed. The motion carries. Next item is discussion and possible litigation intervention regarding the application of El Paso Electric Company to change rates pending before the State Office Administrative Hearings, SOAH, docket number 473-15-5257, PUC, docket number 44941.
The recommendation is to table this item.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to table this item till the next meeting, or till, is that right, Mr. Cruz?
Correct.
Till the next meeting?
We'll put it at the next meeting.
The next meeting? Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion is tabled. Finally, the next item is discussion and possible action regarding consultation with legal counsel regarding grievance dated January 4th, 2016, January 19th, 2016, February 5th, 2016, on discrimination complaint filed by Esther McCarthy against Superintendent of Schools and matters related thereto.
The recommendation is to appoint or hire the firm of Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russo, and Kyle to investigate the claims made in the grievances filed by Esther McCarthy.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the law firm of
Walsh Gallegos.
Walsh Gallegos to help with the complaint against, by Esther McCarthy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, motion carries.
Before we adjourn, there's 2 agenda items that will be placed on the next board meeting, one about single-member districts, and the other one on the teacher salary survey that, not salary,
No.
teacher survey, climate survey that was requested in open session. So those 2 will be items sponsored by Arlene and Hilda in the next board meeting.
All those move to adjourn? We have a motion, a second to adjourn. There's no objections. We stand adjourned at 8:05. Thank you all.